My name is Andrew Carroll. I'm the director of the Center for American War Letters, and our whole mission is to encourage veterans, their families, anyone who has a war letter in their family to share it so we can be part of this really massive collection of these first-hand accounts of everything from the Revolutionary War up through emails sent back and forth in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Darling, a strange and glorious tale it is, with all the dramatic episodes found in a thrilling magazine.
I've collected these literally 100,000 correspondences, and I picked through them of the letters I thought were the most illustrative of certain aspects of warfare, whether it's heading out, boot camp, basic training, love letters, letters about intimacy issues, which can be a little very, actually quite humorous, and also the more philosophical letters and the eyewitness accounts to history. We have a soldier who was in Hitler's apartment at the end of the war. Hitler had already committed suicide in Berlin, and he finds himself in Hitler's apartment with his unit, and he sits down at Hitler's desk, and on Hitler's personal stationery writes about Dachau, which he has just seen. And so he's comparing the sort of the obscene luxury that the Nazis were enjoying with the absolute hell that they were causing for so many other people. And it's just, it's a chilling letter, and the veteran who wrote it actually sent us the original, so we have that correspondence.
In 2 years of combat, you can imagine I've seen a lot of death, but nothing ever stirred me as much as this. The first boxcar I came to had about 30 what were once humans in it. All were just bone with a layer of skin over them. Most of the eyes were open and had an indescribable look about them. 20 or 30 other boxcars were the same, bodies on top of each other, no telling how many. And then into the camp itself. 160,000 persons were originally in the camp, and 32,000 were alive, or almost alive, when we arrived. There's a gas chamber and furnace room in one barracks. 2 rooms were full of bodies waiting to be cremated. How can people do things like that? I never believed they could until now. Well, I miss you all very much. Your son, Horace.
So it's really to give people as much of a glimpse into the lives of these men and women who served and their families, because I think they get often overlooked, but the sacrifices they make, and this play is very much about that, of what these troops and their loved ones go through in these times of war, the anxiety, and obviously, the loss. And so that's a big part of the production too. But I think what surprises people is that there are so many kind of inspirational letters and funny letters, and it really runs the gamut of the human experience. So it's not all, hopefully, history and depressing. We see some of the best of human nature in warfare, the courage, the bravery, and letters of reconciliation. So they're really some of the most beautiful things I've ever read.
April 14, 1945, somewhere in Burma. Dear Helene, in your last letter you say that you wish you were over here. Although most people think, like you, that they are war conscious. Are they really?
We have this incredible letter by an African-American pilot who is serving actually in Burma, and he was talking about the air crews going out and coming back, and how 12 will go out in formation, but only 9 return. And he's like, look, and he was writing to a friend who said, I wish I were over there with you. And he's like, you're not, people think they're war conscious, but until you've seen the light go out of men's eyes, and you've seen that pain, and you've seen that sacrifice, it's really just too abstract and too large to really understand. And that's what Lines of Fire is all about, is showing the human aspect of war. It's not about the politics of it. It's not about why we went into a certain conflict or not. It's what is it like when you're right there on the front lines.
Dear Mr. Lincoln, when this war broke out, I went right in, I did, and fought and bled for the cause, and left my wife. And when I came home on furlough last month, I found out that she'd been diddling other men. And I would like to have a discharge, for she diddles all the time.
This project began all word of mouth. So it was actually a distant cousin of mine who sent me a letter that he wrote from World War II. It was a phenomenal letter, and I said, hey, I'll return it to you. Thanks for sharing it. He said, no, I was going to throw it out anyway. And that just kind of sparked this, talking with other veterans and troops. And then Dear Abby did a column on it, and it went out to literally, hundreds of thousands, not millions of people. We did a PBS documentary based on the letters, a History Channel documentary, and all these kind of helped spread the word. And actually, we now have this great university in California, Chapman, which is going to serve as the archive and have professional staff going over these letters, protecting them, making sure that they will be preserved for posterity. So in some ways, I feel like the project is beginning all over again. We officially launched it back in 1998, but 16 years later, I feel like we're just now getting started. So I'm going on a 50-state trip to talk with, at veterans halls and historical societies, and just spread the word as much as I can.
March 1st, 1945. Darling, I'm listening to President Roosevelt as I write. He has said 50 different ways that he, Joe Stalin, and Winnie Churchill all got along just fine in Yalta. I wonder whether you get my mail. I wonder whether you will get this V-mail letter any faster than a regular one. I wonder where you are, what you're doing, how life is treating you. Emily Dickinson wrote, "Suspense is hostiler than death. Death, though so ever broad, is just death and cannot increase. Suspense does not conclude, but perishes to live anew. I love you, my dearest. Such a darling, Sid. Estelle."